A massive tidal wave of change is crashing into schools all across England, and the incredible thing is, it's all happening at once. This term is, well, it's not business as usual. The entire education system has been thrown into a pressure cooker.
So let's break this all down. First, we're going to look at this huge wave of change. Then, we'll unpack the new rulebook that schools are being judged against. After that, we'll see how teachers are reacting on the ground, explore the impact this is all having on students, and wrap up with the really big question this all leads to.
All right, first up, this term of transformation. And the key phrase here, believe me, is at once. This isn't some slow drip of new policies over a few years. Nope, this is a complete system overhaul, and it's all hitting right now, simultaneously.
And just to give you a sense of the scale here, we're talking about 5 enormous reforms all being published this term. You've got everything from brand new report cards from Ofsted, the school's inspectorate, to massive reforms for special educational needs, or SEND. It's a full-on system overhaul, creating this immense amount of pressure on pretty much everyone in a school.
So what's really at the heart of all this pressure? Well, it's a brand new playbook for how schools are held accountable. You can basically throw the old rules out the window because a new, much more intensive system is now in place.
The old ratings? Gone. Now, if a school is struggling, it can fall into one of 2 new, pretty high-stakes categories. The most severe is special measures. That gets triggered if leadership and at least one other area get the lowest grade. And getting a rating like this has immediate, very significant consequences.
So what happens if a school gets hit with one of those low ratings? Well, it's immediately sent down one of 2 very different paths. The first is a major structural change, like being forced to become an academy. The other path brings in intensive support from these new expert teams called RIS. That stands for Regional Improvement for Standards and Excellence.
And the ambition behind this is just huge. Let's be clear, this is not a minor adjustment. The government has openly said its goal is to use this new framework to double the number of mandatory interventions in schools. It's a signal of a much more aggressive, hands-on approach.
But what does all this look like from inside the school gates, from the people on the front lines? Let's switch gears and get the view from the classroom to see how educators are actually reacting to all this.
And this graph, wow, it reveals a pretty dramatic U-turn. A TeacherTapp survey shows that when these changes were first proposed back in February, a whopping 75% of teachers were supportive. But fast forward to now, that support has absolutely nosedived to just 36%. That's a huge shift.
This powerful and tragic quote from Professor Julia Waters, the sister of head teacher Ruth Perry, really cuts to the emotional heart of this backlash. It highlights this profound fear that in the rush to make things simple for parents, the immense pressure and well-being of the actual staff is being dangerously ignored.
And this isn't just about sentiment. The data paints a really worrying picture. New OECD figures show England has one of the worst teacher attrition rates among developed nations. I mean, look, in other countries, it's a pretty even split between people retiring and people just leaving the profession. But here, over 90% of those who leave are quitting before retirement age.
So with all this incredible pressure on teachers and school leaders, you have to ask, right? What's the ripple effect on the students? How are they doing in the middle of this storm of reform?
Well, the latest data shows that while the national average for meeting expected standards has inched up a bit to 62%, there's still this really stubborn gap. Only 47% of disadvantaged pupils are meeting that same standard. That is a persistent 15-point gap that, ironically, these reforms are supposed to be fixing.
And all of this is connected to a growing attendance crisis. A recent report uncovered a statistic that is, frankly, shocking. Nearly half of all parents surveyed, 45%, believe it's reasonable for their child to miss 10% of the school year. That's a fundamental challenge to the whole system.
And why does that matter so much? Because new research has drawn a crystal clear line. The more a child is absent from school, the higher the probability that they will experience mental health issues. The two are intertwined. So as attendance falls, the strain on student well-being just keeps growing.
Okay, so when you put it all together, the massive reforms, the intense reaction from teachers, and the very real impact on students, it all boils down to one huge, high-stakes dilemma.
And here it is. How can the system drive up standards without completely breaking the very people, both the teachers and the students, it's supposed to be helping?
Is this whole thing a necessary balancing act to improve our schools, or is it a high-pressure strategy that risks pushing an already stressed system right to its breaking point? The answer to that is going to define the future of education in England.